not, what's happening isn't fair. And I just, it's not right. So I couldn't take it anymore.
Welcome to KLTV.News. I'm Christy Lee. I'm really excited about my guest today. Her name is Kayla Strayer. She spent 10 years in journalism, hopping around the country, working at different news stations, reporting and anchoring, and grew up in a small Ohio town. Like myself, shortly after leaving traditional journalism, she has a wedding coming up. So before I say any more, let's just welcome in Kayla Strayer. There's a lot going on in your life right now, Kayla, and I can relate to that because that's kind of how everything happened with me. Everything happened at once. So like I said, you've been in the journalism business for a decade now, lots of different experiences. You left traditional news in May, but you didn't really announce it until more recently. So can you kind of take me through that?
Yes. Well, my original contract end date was in July of this year. And then I ended up, they switched my contract to end at the end of May. Just basically due to, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but that's what happened. So bear with me because I've never really publicly on camera talked about a lot of these negative things. But I mean, the news industry, I mean, it's a tough job. We were together when everyone lost their jobs in Toledo at the Sinclair station. There's a lot of bad in it, I guess. And I just saw it getting worse over this past year, especially. But I mean, there's a lot of bad in any field that you go into. I mean, any job is going to be stressful. I'm not trying to say that journalism is more, I mean, I think it's more stressful than a lot of jobs. But.
You don't want to throw out the good with the bad. We've had so many good experiences and worked with so many good people with integrity. So I try and come back to that. You know, when I say that I have concerns and there's a lot of bad people or bad journalism going on in this business, that's not to say that all of it is bad. There's still people trying to do good in what is becoming more and more of a broken system. So when did you start to see, or did you see a change in the approach to journalism as you kind of went on your journey through the last 10 years?
You just made very interesting points, and there has been so many good. I mean, 4 of the girls in my wedding I met through TV journalism. So I've had so many good memories that I'm so proud of and thankful for over the past 10 years. But yeah, the bad started outweighing the good. I'd say definitely in the last year or so. I think there's a lot of toxic leadership in different newsrooms. And I don't know if it's me personally just noticing more of the agenda type stuff. As you know, there can be agendas set, whether that's by national news or what, and then it trickles down to local news to where you're not outright reporting a lie. I mean, maybe in some cases, but I don't think that's the general thing that's happening. You're just going with that agenda. Your stories are getting picked by what fits the current agenda or what doesn't, or stories are being ignored if they don't fit the current agenda. And I can't take that like anymore. I think it's definitely more of a national news problem, but I mean, I think it happens too locally. I don't think we're doing our jobs as a whole of keeping people informed. I think we're just picking stuff on, oh, this has this video, so it's going to have the clickbait and get people to watch, even though, is it just an isolated incident? Like, are we blowing this out of proportion? We don't really, I mean, I'm sure the conversations are had, but I think a lot more harm than good in a lot of different ways.
And then there's the cynicism that sets in.
That was another reason why I just personally, I was sick of it. Some of the conversations that happen around in newsroom meetings, which I know you've been a part of. But yeah, one of the recent ones, a leader went around and asked everyone as we're discussing what stories to do that day. Well, I mean, who really cares about a toddler being shot? Because technically it's just outside our viewing area. So, I mean, do we really care? And we're just all me and some of the other reporters, are texting each other like, "Is this really a conversation right now?" Like, I get it if you don't have the resources to go devote to everything. I mean, there's so much crime, there's so much bad news everywhere. But do you have to have a conversation like that? Like, I mean, you can just,
Like, word it
you
that
know,
way. Do we care about a
yeah,
two-year-old being shot? I mean, it's outside our viewing area. I mean, it seems a little callous. And so that's kind of the discomfort you felt?
um, a lot of it's bad. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the private Facebook groups where so many journalists around the country, they're suffering mentally. They have anxiety, they have panic attacks. Like the industry as a whole is just toxic in so many different ways. Is what I feel.
Do you think it's just they're pushing reporters, specifically reporters, to do so much as far as like camera work, social media management? Is this what's causing a lot of the anxiety, or what do you think?
I mean, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, yes, personally, there's the deadline pressure, as you know, sending out just one man bands where you're by yourself in um, whatever given situation. Nothing's ever enough. For me, a big thing was the hypocrisy with the way the pandemic was handled. You would have anchors on TV sitting 6 feet apart or working from home and trying to show the public, hey, we care and everything. But then your reporters in the field, your photographers in the field, like you don't care. You're making it seem one way toward the public when it's completely opposite behind the scenes. And I cannot stand hypocrisy. Like I don't if you don't want to care about me, that's fine, but don't make it seem to the public that you do care.
And like we've said multiple times, although we are recognizing these problems and it's important to acknowledge them and allow the public to know, at the same time, two things can be true. I know I'm very grateful, and I know you're very grateful for even having had the opportunity to fulfill childhood dreams, for having had to work with some remarkable journalists. But that's why it makes it even more important to speak up about this new wave of journalism. And I don't know if you see it, but I guess I'll explain and then I'll get your feedback. What I see with this new wave of journalism is they're labeling it as advocacy journalism, but what really it seems like is journalists picking a moral high ground or an idealism and somehow like thinking that that's now okay to put out publicly, when before we were supposed to be considered neutral. We weren't supposed to be posting about political things, and if you're on one side it's okay, but on the other, I mean, do you have anything to add to that?
Okay, I was preparing for this. As I was preparing for this, I wrote that specific thing down. I wrote down it is not right if you are a journalist and you're supposed to be objective. You shouldn't be able to post your opinion out there, whether it's left, whether it's right. I don't care if it's about something that you're reporting on. Your opinion, you're not getting paid to share your opinion. You're getting paid to share the facts of what's going on, to get other people's sides and report that. Nobody cares about your opinion. And you and I both know if we were to put out something that fell in line with the left side of the aisle on social media, we would be fine. If we put out something that didn't fall, that was more conservative, we're opening ourselves up to getting fired. And it's just not right. Make it fair across the board. Be a journalist. When you're a journalist, don't share your opinions like that.
Through the age of punditry, there's this almost elevation of commentary, but when you're doing traditional local news, what does it matter what your local news anchor thinks? Should it matter what your local news anchor thinks, or should we just be delivering the information?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I feel like anything, it was just so acceptable for journalists included to just be so anti-Trump. And as a journalist, you're not supposed to be one side or the other publicly. Obviously, we all have our opinions. We're human. We have our opinions, but we're not getting paid to share those opinions unless that is your job as a commentator. But for most journalists, you're supposed to share the facts. And to just ignore stories based on whether it fits the left agenda or not, or the right agenda or not. I mean, it's just wrong. And one thing I noticed when last year, uh, President Trump was coming to Fayetteville a lot because Fort Bragg is there for several rallies. And I would I would always be asked about the crowd there and asked to point out if they're not socially distanced or not wearing masks, stuff like that. This is just one example. I was never told anything like that when I was in the middle of the protest all throughout last summer. And that's just an example of following what of the, it's not equal. I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my words, but it's just not, what's happening isn't fair. And I just, it's not right. So I couldn't take it anymore.
This was more, I think we've both seen some like journalists come out and like mic drop ways, and this was more of a journey for me. Is that more how it was for you? Is just kind of like a lead up to, okay, I can't do this anymore?
Yes. I last year I don't know if you've heard of Dave Ramsey, but I discovered him and I started the process of getting out of debt, which involves paying my student loans off. So, anyways, I took a second job on the weekends, week nights, and everything, delivering food. And I remember always being like, I look more forward to delivering food than I do going to my career job that I've worked the past 10 years to build up. And it's like something's wrong here. And it's sad. Honestly, it's sad to me because I still love journalism. Like I love sharing people's stories. I really cannot imagine doing anything else. So it was a lot of heartbreak for me to come to the decision that I just couldn't do that anymore. I'm not saying I'll never do journalism anymore, but not in the same way that, not where I just came from, basically. On to bigger and better things, hopefully.
What kind of reception or response have you gotten from former colleagues about you coming out with saying, I'm leaving the business and here's why?
Well, coworkers, I mean, we've been texting each other this whole time just about the awful conditions that everyone's working under, many that the public just doesn't maybe not know about. But so they've known I've been frustrated for a long time. They're in the same boat. But other than that, I don't think I've gotten anything negative, at least said to my face. I was scared because I'm the type of person that really cares what people think about me. I want people to like me. I'm not usually one to go against, to put up a fight. And I feel like this is kind of what it is, me putting up a fight, I guess. But I'm just realizing sometimes you do have to put up a fight. Like what we see with censorship and all of that. I mean, don't even get me started on that. I'm just like, this is not right. Sometimes it feels like we don't even live in America. I don't know.
I mean, I do want to get you started on that because that was really the straw that broke the camel's back for me, is seeing former coworkers. And again, most of my former coworkers I still admire and think I'm still friends with. I don't know what they think of what I've done since, but some of them were just cheering on censorship, and I just couldn't understand it. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, these are the tenets we're supposed to stand in highest regard of. How did you feel when you saw people being like taken off of, their voices effectively being taken away in the public square of today?
I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I don't understand. Like censorship is un-American. It's not. It doesn't feel right what's happening. Where you have to watch the words that you're going to post on social media, or you might, like me and you talked about, you might, or I saw it on your Facebook or something. You might get it taken off, and it's like you're just doing your job of reporting. Why should you worry about being censored? I don't know. My reaction to it is not favorable.
I think that there's a performance element to what we do, and so there's that desire to please and to have like someone say good job. So it is scary coming out and saying our observations. So I do want to thank you for being brave. I personally know how hard it is and to worry about what people are going to say, but it's so needed and so necessary. And what do you hope to see change, or is there hope of seeing things change?
Yeah, I mean, I believe in God, so I'm always going to put it, and I know you do this as well, put it in God's hands, and you have to have hope. I mean, what's the point otherwise? So I definitely have hope that things can get better. I think it's going to take more people standing up and not journalists not acting this way anymore. I guess journalists doing better, and calling out things when they're wrong, and not just going along to get along. So I think it definitely takes all of us. And if you're not in the right outlet currently, there's other outlets like what you're doing now. There's other options out there. So you don't just have to put up with that toxic environment. You don't have to put up with that contract. For me personally, I literally went to the hospital earlier this year because of panic attacks, anxiety directly due to my job, where I was just stuck there in a contract. Didn't want to go against my word. That happens all over the country, where journalists are just facing a lot right now, I guess, especially the ones stuck in those TV contracts. But I think if we just stand up, do what's right, and do your job as a journalist, just report the facts, be fair, then it'll get better.
Is there anything else you were hoping to share about?
Oh, no, I just want to say thank you so much. I just did the thing that everyone we interview does, where you're like, is there anything else? And they're like, no. And then they keep saying more things.
I know. It's weird to be on the other side of the interview, right?
It is. And I apologize if any of this is just me rambling on and not having the best answers. But no, I appreciate you giving me the time to speak about this. And I'm really happy for you. And I'm really proud of you and what you're doing, and I think you're doing the right thing, and I think you're going to impact a lot of people. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kayla, and thank you for your bravery and your faith in Christ. And I know that we're in that together, that we know that he'll provide for us. We know that he's going to show us how we are to be his vessel. And for now, just concentrate on your wedding coming up and have so much fun with that. And we'll be checking back in with you to see what you're up to next, because I know you're going to do more things with this as well.
Thank you so much, Christy. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.